All right. Good morning again. My name is Alex Berg. For those that have just joined us, I'm the founder and CEO of Kratos Equipment. What we're here to do today is to talk about the 5 biggest ways that battery power is going to change your construction job site. So we're going to talk about 5 things. We're going to cover job site safety. We're going to cover job site efficiency. We're going to cover the biggest problem that's facing the construction industry right now, which is the labor shortage. We're going to talk a little bit about the differences in different battery types. So we're going to talk about lead acid batteries, lithium batteries, and the newer technology that's coming out, which is called solid state batteries. And then we're also going to talk about the long-term cost savings for switching some of your equipment over to battery. So at the end, we're going to open it up for some questions. And for those that you'll see on the screen there, Laura is helping us out in the background. For those of you that ask a question, we'll have some Amazon gift cards. So the first thing of the way battery is going to change your job site is regarding the labor shortage. Okay? According to the AGC, Associated General Contractors, from a 2019 survey, about 80% of contractors responded and said that the labor shortage was the #1 thing that was affecting their jobs. 80% is a huge number, right? Of those 80%, 43% of them responded and said that it was causing the jobs to cost more, right? Whether that was they were having to pay for increased labor, right? The time was taking more. All the construction sites were costing more for the GCs. In turn, that made more cost for the owners. 29% of those that responded said that they were moving to automation. That's where the battery technology comes in. Some of these projects are indoors, right? Instead of using labor that is really hard to find, they're finding equipment that is the right tool for the job. It can go inside, it can work indoors, it can fit through tight quarters, right? The right tool for the job, that leads to both our next 2 items, which are job site efficiency, as well as worker safety, right? Job site efficiency is huge, especially when you're talking about the 43% that are saying that the costs of the jobs are increasing. So when you're bidding projects, one of the hardest things is to calculate exact labor rates. So how are you bidding a project if you're putting 1,000 man hours into the project and somehow that leads to 1,500 man hours or 2,000 man hours? That job becomes much more expensive, right? When you move to equipment or automation through these processes, you can find exact data and exact bid numbers, all right? It also, battery-powered equipment, when it's the right tool for the job, it reduces your overall setup cost for the project. So some of these projects that require negative air pressure, right? Or extreme ventilation to keep particles in the air down, right? All of that stuff comes into play when you're creating efficiency and when you have the right tools for the project. One of the most important things I think we can all agree on a construction site is worker safety, right? We all want to wake up in the morning. We all want to go home at night to our families. So overexertion is actually the #1 lost day issue with OSHA, okay? In the labor field, in 2008, OSHA came out with a study that said they had 46 incidents per 10,000 workers. That was by far and away the highest, right? Overexertion or sprains, hurt backs, something along those lines, that costs, it's the average cost of a workers' comp claim can be anywhere between $12,000 and $20,000 for an owner, right? Those are significant costs just by not having the right tool for the project, right? We see it all the time. Trying to find the labor to do the work and then not having the right tool for the job can lead to all of these things that we just talked about. Now's where we're going to dig into a little bit of the technology that you're seeing with batteries, right? Currently, about 70% of the batteries in the construction industry are lead acid. That's what you see pretty standard in your industrial forklifts, your battery storage for generators, all of those things that they make up about 70%. But now, as the technology is getting greater, you're starting to see a shift to lithium-ion batteries, okay? The cost of lithium-ion batteries is coming down significantly as the technology gets greater and greater. right? But with lead acid batteries, you have a much lower upfront cost, but you have a much higher long-term cost. So the daily maintenance, the daily upkeep for a lead acid battery is much different than the much higher upfront cost for a lithium battery, but zero maintenance costs over time. The lithium battery is managed by a BMS, or battery management system, right? And that helps to make sure the charging and discharging is consistent. It helps repair any damaged cells through peak voltages. It makes sure that the overall battery stays healthy throughout time, okay? Lithium batteries also last a lot longer, right? Multiple times over of what lead acid batteries can do of the same size. Currently, a lithium battery costs, to give you an idea, a lithium battery costs about $250 to $500 per kilowatt hour. Right? The next step in technology is what's called solid state batteries. So currently, lithium ion batteries have a liquid electrolyte within them. The liquid electrolyte allows the energy to pass between the cells. A solid state battery has a solid electrolyte. So the passing of the energy from one cell to another is more consistent, it's faster, okay? So what that does is in the same size battery, or the same size cell, you're allowed to store about 2 to 3 times more energy, and then you're allowed to recharge 2 to 3 times faster. This is a relatively new technology, and over the next 10 to 15 years, we'll start to see that technology gain momentum. Slowly, you'll start to see the lead acid batteries shift out of play in the construction industry. You'll start to see lithium ion batteries come into play. And then further down the road, you'll start to see these solid state batteries. The reason why lead acid batteries are making their way out is really all about that energy density and that long-term maintenance cost. Okay. That leads to our final topic today. Right? So we talk about the long-term cost savings of going with battery-powered equipment versus sticking with an internal combustion engine. So internal combustion engines typically have between 2,000 or more moving parts, right? You talk about gaskets, you talk about nuts and bolts and screws and everything that comes into play with daily maintenance of those items that are constantly in motion, right? An electric motor typically is only going to have between 20 and 30 moving parts. The daily, weekly, monthly upkeep of those fewer parts over time creates much less cost for these units. Right? It also allows a much higher resale cost because of that. Electric equipment, electric motors, battery-powered equipment, they don't deteriorate over time like combustion engines do. So you're seeing run times of 10, 15, 20 years with very little maintenance costs. It takes about 3 to 4 years to really see that significant cost savings. You still have that higher upfront cost for battery-powered and electric construction equipment. But as you get to that 3, 4, 5 years down the road, that lower maintenance cost comes into play, as well as the higher resale values down the road because these machines last so much longer, right? So as all of these come into play, as you're looking at what your fleet looks like currently and into the future, recognize that all of these things are gearing towards longer run times in your fleet. You're going to have machines longer with less maintenance, right? You're going to start to see machines that instead of flipping the fleet or flipping the machines every 3 to 5, sometimes you get into 8 to 10 years, these machines will last a lot longer in your fleet. They'll be bringing in revenue with less cost over time. All right. What I'd like to do now is open it up for some questions. Laura, if there's anybody that has any questions, if you could just maybe unmute them so they can ask their questions so I can hear them and we can address a couple things that we went over. Hey, John, can you? I can see you're coming on the screen. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Alex. How are you, bud?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm well, thanks.
All right.
So you were
What's
talking
your
about
question?
the three type of batteries. Are the duty cycle times on the battery equivalent, or is one better than the other? Or
So it's really all about the density of the batteries, right? So your lead acid batteries create a memory. So over time, that's where a lot of that maintenance comes into play. Your lithium ion and your solid state batteries, those are going to be very similar in the way that they respond to duty time and work time and then cycle times.
okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Laura, why don't we get John? Send John a message, get his address, and we'll send him one of our gift cards. So, John, thanks for your question. Anybody else have any questions? John brought up a great thing about with the lead acid versus lithium and the solid state batteries, right? So um, the overall cycles that you're going to see from a similar size is going to be significantly less. So uh, right here behind us, we have two of our lead acid battery machines. We have our Sherpa machine and we have our Twinka machine, right? So uh, for our Sherpa machine, this currently has a lead acid battery in it, and the amount of cycles that we get for this battery is about 11 to 1200 is what we tell people. If we were to put our lithium battery in this machine, we're going to get about 3000 cycles. So same machine, same battery size, but significantly more cycles. So while this battery is probably going to last a customer about 5 to 6 years in the field, our lithium battery could last 10 to 15, maybe even 20 years in the field. Anybody else have any questions that we can answer for you? Hey, Joel, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
Good. My question is you had mentioned that the electrical equipment has a higher cost than internal combustion. Do you have a round figure of what that would be? How much more that would cost in percentage for the same size machine?
Sure. It depends, right? So there's more technology, and it's not as mass produced as internal combustion engines are, right? So because of that, the cost is going to be more. I could tell you that our machine here, our Sherpa machine, is in the mid 30s, is about what the cost is. And if you looked at a combustion machine that's around the same size, you're looking at something in the low 20s, right? So it's probably 1.5 to 2 times more is what you're going to see. I guess I would compare that to take a look at a Tesla, right? When they first came out with their machines or their cars before they went to their Model 3 and their newer Model Y, or you look at the S and the X, you compare those to something that's similar, in style and speed and all that, where those cars are $100,000, where you could get a SUV for probably 50, 60 that's got the same internal quality, right? Over time, the cost of producing all of these things is going to get cheaper. So there's a recent study that shows that lithium ion batteries are costing anywhere between 250 to 500 kilowatts per kilowatt, right? That should, within the next 3 to 5 years, get down to $200 to $300 per kilowatt hour. So over time, as these units are produced more and more, the initial upfront cost is going to come down on these units.
Very good. Also, I was curious. We just have the wheeled versions. Is there any track versions in the works at all, or anything more dirt related?
Yeah, we're definitely working on some of those options. I think the key is making sure your runtime is significant enough. right? So how do you, as far as the R&D goes for our company, how are we managing the power that's needed in the battery in such a small confined space? How are we generating that to an electric motor, and how are we making sure that the customer is able to use a product for an entire day? And I think that's the key.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Laura, we'll make sure, message Joel, get his address, and we'll send him a gift card as well. Hey, Kevin, good morning.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
So I was kind of wondering, I got two questions. I guess it was kind of off of Joel's. Are you guys coming out with any different sizes or, more lifting capacity, or do you got any new attachments that are in the works that are coming out in the next year or two?
Yeah, so attachments, we've got a wide range of attachments, right? And
yeah,
and specifically for these two machines behind me, when you're talking about attachments, there's hundreds of attachment manufacturers out there, and you're talking about steel and hydraulics. So you could make anything work. It just depends on the correct application. We do have a faster machine than our Eco. We have a machine called our 2-speed, so it has a high-speed drive function. We do have a battery-powered mini excavator as well, a 1.5-ton unit. So we are working on different products. We have something that's in the works that's the same width, but a sit-down unit for our skid steer. We're looking at an articulated loader, so with a couple of different sizes. So as an organization, we're constantly trying to expand and grow and figure out what's next. We keep it in that battery technology field because we feel that's what we do best, and that's our expertise. And that's what our customers are looking for.
Cool. Thank you. I also got one other question.
Sure.
One of my customers bought quite a few of these Sherpas direct prior to us getting on board, being a vendor and all that. And
sure,
really starting to buy a lot of parts. And the questions come up a couple times when they look into a parts price. Now they are funneling them all through us, but if they go direct through you guys, are they paying the list price on that, or they're not getting any discounts like we are, or how does it
always if someone calls us direct and they ask us what's the price, we always will quote them list price, and we'll always quote them a full delivery charge. It's like if you called Ford directly, right? Ford's going to tell you this is what the MSRP is, but you go to their dealership around the corner and they've got some deal for $6,000 off, or they've got some kind of financing. So we'll always quote somebody what the list price of a unit or a part or anything, so they have that knowledge. And then if we have a dealer in the area, we're going to push them towards them, because our dealers can service people around. We deal with everyone throughout U.S. and Canada and even into the Caribbean. So our dealers know their customers well. They've been working with them for probably a lot longer than we have. So they have those relationships, and we want to push them back to our dealers for sure.
Got you. Thank you. It hasn't really hit too much yet, but they now need a couple batteries. So we're talking, $12,000 for a couple batteries. So the question came up.
Sure. How old are their machines? Are they in that 3 to 5 year range?
Yeah, I believe so. Maybe 5 at the most.
Okay. Yeah. So with the lead acid batteries, this is actually, I'm really happy that you've asked this question. We've kind of gone down this path, because this talks about, this really leads into what I said earlier about the lead acid batteries and the longer term maintenance costs. Mm-hmm. The initial upfront cost of those batteries is lower than what it would be replacing a lithium battery, right? But as you get into that 3 to 5 to 6 year range, the runtime of those units is going to come down a little bit, right? The cost to maintain them starts to come up a little bit more. So within that range, so even with our Eco, when you first get this machine, you're going to see a 7 to 8 hour runtime. As you're 3 to 5 years down the road, you might see 6 hours, right? If you're in, Kevin, what state are you located in?
Michigan, Detroit area.
Okay, perfect. So in Detroit, it's a lot colder than it is in Florida. I'm here in our facility, and I'm sweating profusely, right? But in Michigan, the runtime is going to be a little bit less than it is in Florida in the winter because the cold affects batteries. All right, so even a brand new battery that you'll see 7 to 8 working hours, if you put it into a Michigan winter, you might only see about 6 hours and 45 minutes or 7 hours. So it's very slight, but you can see that difference. So 3 to 5 years down the road, as that lead acid battery gets weaker, you'll start to see that even more. So your customer having a battery that's 3 to 5 years down the road and maybe or maybe not hasn't been maintained per spec.
Yeah, it's a demo contractor. It's a demo contractor, so yeah, they definitely don't take care of their stuff that great.
Having grown up in the demo business, I fully understand the complexity of what demo contractors do to their equipment.
All right, thank you very much.
Absolutely, thanks, Kevin. Bill, yes, sir. What can I do for you?
Yeah, I got a question. I mean, is there any real benefit using one of these machines over just, putting a scrubber on a Bobcat?
Yeah, so it comes into what's the right tool for the job. All right, so a scrubber is, for those that don't know, it's basically like a catalytic converter on a combustion engine, right? So when you first put a scrubber on a unit, it will filter out X percentage of the particulates, right? So maybe that's 98, 99%. It's never going to get 100%. But as that filter over time continues to filter out more particulates, it's like an air filter in your car, right? They tell you to change your air filter every X amount of miles or every X amount of years for a reason. It starts to get filled up with stuff. So an air scrubber on a diesel engine works exactly in the same way. The first day you send it out to the job site, it might get 98, 99% of those particulates, but it's never going to get everything. And then over time, if you're going into a project, say it's a food processing facility or a hospital or an active office building, right? Something that you're doing significant air monitoring, those scrubbers aren't going to do what you need them to do the way that something that's 100% fume free is. So knowing that the equipment is out there, I think is first and foremost. I think in the construction industry, it's an industry that's been doing things the same way for 30 years. And as we go, having the understanding that equipment like this, equipment that's battery powered, that can work indoors efficiently without setting up negative air, without outfitting scrubbers on machines, is going to keep that air quality 100% every single time. And I think that's the most important. Thank you for your question, Bill.
Thank you for the answer.
Yes, Bob. Good morning. Can you hear? You're still on mute. Can you hear me? Bob, I can't hear it. You're on mute still. All right. And anybody else have any questions that we can answer for you? Laura, is Bob there, or we? There we go.
Yeah.
Off mute.
Quick question. Since you've been doing this for like 5 or 6 years, you said.
Yep.
What is the advantage over this, and like, in your opinion, as you go forward, like what's the advantage, and do you see more and more companies moving in this direction since you started?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the company was started out of the back of a pickup truck, right? Just believing that we could help contractors, right? But as we've gone year in and year out, there's more units available. People are seeing the benefits of battery power. I think as you're starting to see some of these auto manufacturers really get into battery technology and pushing that word out, you're starting to see that in a much grander scale. You'll start to see some of the major players, you know, the Caterpillars of the world, down the road will start to make battery powered a thing. If anybody who's out there was at Bauma last year, there was a cat dealer from the Netherlands, Pon, that created a 30-ton battery powered excavator, right? So all of these things are going to start taking place. When I started the company 7 years ago, it was, you know, it's all going to go to battery. I don't know when you know, somebody's going to come in and say everything's going to be battery, right? But our new administration in the U.S. is probably going to gear more towards energy efficiency. They're going to start mandating a lot of this stuff. You're seeing that around the world in other areas. So as time goes on, this battery power will become a bigger thing in every aspect of our lives, as far as the items that we use, both in transportation and in construction. I'm sure you're seeing it more and more on the job sites that you're on now. You're starting to see more scissor lifts. Scissor lifts have been battery powered for a long time indoors, but you're starting to see scissor lifts that are working outdoors, the off-road lifts that are battery powered. So, you know, for us as a company, we're trying to continue to innovate to stay ahead of the curve with our battery technologies and the products that we offer that still stay within that electric and battery powered ideals. But you'll start to see these on construction sites more and more as you're working. Thank you for the question, Bob.
No problem.
All right. Do we have any last questions? I want to try and wrap this up. I know everybody's got busy days, lots to do on a Wednesday. Anybody else, or you know, and what we can do, I will. If you guys want to write it down, my contact information, you can feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions for you. My email address is alex@kratos.com. I got Brad. I guess we'll make this our last question. Brad, what can I do for you, sir? You there, Brad? I think you're still on mute here. There we go.
Is that better? There we go.
That is much better. Good morning. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Just one quick question. As you are talking about battery technology and, you know, where it's advancing in that, like first generation units, you know, as Kevin had asked, as they're finally at the point of starting to order a battery after that 5-year mark. As we advance, is there the ability to retrofit the older units with the newer battery technologies?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So 100%. Our Sherpa units, as we've gone on, we've made sure that we're a contractor first company. That's how it was started. Contractors are the ones that ultimately use these units. So, you know, whether it's one of our dealer partners or a friend from around the world, right? Ultimately, our design is around the contractor. So yes, you can take an old lead acid battery, pull that out of the machine, put a lithium battery into the machine, and be able to use it. There's small adjustments as far as the hour meter, the way the BMS in a lithium battery connects and shows the data that you want to see is different than the hour meter that's used for the lead acid battery, right? But what also comes into play is, like I said, the increased cost for the lead acid battery or for the lithium battery instead of the lead acid battery. But yeah, absolutely, you can swap them out relatively easily. And about the swap out for the Sherpa machine takes about 4 minutes.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And Laura, the couple people that did ask questions, for those of you that did get called on and ask some questions, just put in the chat, send a private message to Laura with your email address and your mailing address, and she'll send you out a $25 gift card to Amazon. So I want to thank everybody for taking the time to be with us this morning. Again, my name is Alex Berg. Our company is Kratos. And if you have any questions after this, please feel free, email me at any time. My email address is alex@kratos.com. So ALEX@CRATOS.com. So thank you very much. And everybody have a happy and safe holiday. And looking forward to talking with everybody soon. Thank you.